friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to another video. Today I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about raised stencils and just wanted to show you kind of some of the different products that I could think of that you could use to get a raised stencil effect. Of course, there are many other products out there on the market that you could also use. I don't have all of them. These are just some of the things that I could think of that you could use for raised stencils. And I just wanted to kind of show you in real time what you can do with them and just share some of my tips and tricks for that. So for the purpose of this video, instead of working on my usual preferred surfaces such as wood or ceramics or glass or plastic or something like that, I'm just going to use these little bits of card that I have just so I can show you each different thing on a different bit of card. And I have my stencils here, so I keep all of my stencils in this little plastic folder thing, and I have all of my smaller stencils in this pocket and all of my bigger stencils in this little compartment. So I try and keep them as organized as I can. As you can see from the state that some of my stencils are in, I'm not the best at keeping them nice and clean. So to look after your stencils, you must always try and clean them off as soon as you're done working with it. I try to be as good as I can, but in general, I'm a pretty messy crafter, so I'm not very good. But yes, so I just wanted to show you some of the effects that you can get. And so for the purpose of this video, I'm gonna use some of the smaller ones that I have here. Right, so let me just talk you through some of the stuff that I have here. So here I have pent out structure paste. There are different structure pastes out there on the market in all of the different craft shops. So some craft shops will sell this kind of stuff online. There's also things like cement paste. There's different names for them. Let me just open this. As you can see, I've had this for about 2 years now and I've used it quite a bit, and it's kind of dried up, but it can be revived with just a little bit of water and just stir it all up a little bit. We're not going to use this one because I don't want to mix it up at the moment. So this one here is ready mixed filler. This is just one that I bought from my local shop in the DIY section. And there are different ones that you can use. As you can see here, I have Cracks Gone, which we originally actually bought when we repainted my son's bedroom, and there was a few cracks in the walls that we had to fill in. So I still have this since then, and this can definitely be used for a stencil effect. And then we're going to try out this sparkle paste. I haven't actually tried it yet. This is Little Birdie Craft sparkle paste. So let me open this up for you. So as you can see, it's kind of gooey on the inside, so hopefully it'll hold the structure of the stencil quite nicely. And then I have heavy gel medium, which if you haven't seen my previous video, I used this on a little box in my last video. So we're gonna also apply it on here, and this is just a clear one. And also I just want to test it out. So I have these 3D pearl effect things, so liquid pearls basically, and I usually substitute contour liner with these, or if I want to add some pearls or something, I use these. But then also, if you don't have any of the other things that I just showed you, I want to see if I can spread it through the stencil and if it will hold the shape of the stencil and how this will go. Again, I haven't tried using 3D pearls, but I just thought, it's that kind of tacky gooey thing, so it might work. And then I also have some of this acrylic paint that we're just going to mix in together with ready mixed filler, because I want to show you that you can also tint it and make the filler, make a raised stencil straight away in the color that you need. So I'm just going to take a pen and write down what we're going to use on this one first, so that we don't forget what we used. So this is the consistency that we have here, and so in UK we called them ready mixed fillers or crack fillers. Poly filler, also a common name used for it, but I know wherever you are in the world, it might be called differently. But just go into your local DIY section, DIY shop, and look for something that you can use to fill in gaps in wood or gaps in walls, something like that. So we'll use this damask stencil for this one. As you can see, it's quite thick, so I pick it up, it doesn't, well, I'm shaking it and it doesn't fall off. If you have some of these palette knives, then they are really good to use for this. But if you don't have any of those, so I have this little spatula thing which also actually came with this same filler to use for the walls, or you could just use a plastic card that you might have lying around, you know, like one of them reward cards. So I'm just going to hold it down. For larger stencils, it might be easier for you to stick it down with some non-permanent glue. So I know a lot of people that use stencils have these tacky spray for stencils, which is supposed to just make your stencil tacky, but so that it doesn't glue down, and it helps it hold it in place. I don't have any of that, and I keep telling myself that I'm gonna get some, but I still haven't done it. So there we go. So of course, the thicker your stencil is, the thicker the actual raised stencil is going to be. When you do a raised stencil effect, chances are you're not going to be able to get it like all super even. There's still going to be little uneven bits where your palette knife went, but those can be evened out with just a little bit of fine sandpaper once it's all dry. So let's take it off. This is always the scariest part. Voila! There we go. So this is the first one. All right, so as you can see, we have a little bit here that came away, and I'm just going to take another little palette knife. And of course, please do keep in mind that because I'm showing it on a piece of card, it's not primed with anything, so they might come away easier than what they usually would, because usually I work on painted or pre-primed surfaces. I don't usually work on cards, so this is my first experience. But it could be helpful for all of you card makers and scrapbookers out there. So there you go, this is cracks gone. Right, so next we're gonna try ready mixed filler. So when I first got it, it was quite thick, very similar in consistency to that cracks gone stuff, but I have actually just added water into the whole tub and watered it down. So I'm just gonna, so as you can see, when you do that, there's going to be a little bit over time, the water is going to kind of sit on top. So I'm just gonna mix it all up. So as you can see, by consistency, it's not as thick as cracks gone. Let's use one of these. So when it's watered down, it's going to allow you a much more even application, but it also can get a little bit more messy. And now let's take it off. Ta-da! Right, so as you can see, because it was watered down, it kind of seeped through and went in places. That can be tidied up with just a little stick, so you can go around like that and just tidy things up if you need to. I don't necessarily always tidy things up. Now I'm thinking that maybe I watered it down a bit too much. But yeah, so this is ready mixed filler. If it's not watered down, the consistency that you're gonna get is much more like this. Right, so next we're gonna do ready mixed filler plus paint. So I'm gonna scoop a little bit actually from the bottom where it's not as wet. So I'm just gonna scoop a little bit out like so onto a plate, and add a little bit of acrylic paint. So acrylic or chalk paint, anything like that can be used for this. And then just using my little bamboo stick, I'm gonna mix it up. So of course you need to account for the fact that whatever color your filler is, it's going to affect the paint that you add in. So if it's white, it's going to make it a little bit lighter. If it's creamy color, it might make it a little bit more warm, a little bit lighter and warmer. So depending on what color your filler is, just keep that in mind. Scoop it up. I probably didn't make enough of the mix for this stencil. And spread it out. If you're working with these kind of like pattern stencils, you don't necessarily have to do the whole pattern. You can just do a part of it and see what happens, like I'm gonna do now. Whoop. Ta-da! There you go. Very pretty. I actually like it. I think maybe I wasn't as careful when I applied this one. This one turned out much more neat and tidy, and I actually really like the way that it looks. I kind of want to put it on something now. It's a shame that you can't take it off now. Right, can't just peel it away and stick it on something. So next we're going to do sparkle paste. So I'm actually really excited to try it, and I think I'm going to use one of my Christmassy stencils, just so that you can see how cool and amazing this can be for when you are making something Christmassy. Like, let's do some snowflakes. When you're doing something that's Christmas themed, you could just apply this sparkle paste over the top and get a really, really pretty thing out of it. So I'm just kind of gently trying to scrape away the excess so that it is quite even. Right, now let's lift it up. There you go, very pretty. Oh, right, I'm just going to quickly scrape away some of this excess, because these kind of more expensive artsy, crafty materials, I try and save them as much as I can. So let's have a look. There you go, look how pretty it is. I know, like, obviously it doesn't look as pretty because it's on a piece of brown cardboard, but just imagine it on like a white Christmas Eve box, you know, and it just all sparkles and it's super pretty. There you go, and look at how neat and tidy it actually sits. Amazing. Right, so next we're going to use this heavy gel medium for a stencil. So once again with this one, well, technically with all of these you could add acrylic paint or chalk paint into them and make them whatever color you need to, but I just wanted to say that with this you definitely can add some kind of paint into it, and because if you can see here, it kind of has that iridescency to it, just like sparkle paste, but sparkle paste has glitter inside of it, so you could add whatever glitter you have. If you wanted to, you could use just that and add some glitter into it and make it whatever color you want, so that way you can just have, you know, one tub of this plus 5 different colors of glitter, and you don't have to have 5 different tubs of this, for example. You know, the possibilities are really endless with these kind of things. You can just let your mind go crazy, depending on what you have accessible to you, what kind of supplies you have. You need to find something that works for you. I always try and encourage mix art materials with kind of DIY materials that people use for building, as you can see, because I know that not everybody has access to fancy art and craft materials that are specifically meant for these kind of things, and we want crafts to be accessible to everybody, wherever you are and whatever your budget is. Right, so there you go. This is heavy gel medium, so as you can see it is very transparent, but hopefully you can see there's a little bit, like in person you can see it much better, there's a little bit of that iridescency to it as well. It looks a little bit opaque in places, so it could definitely be used mixed together with different glitters or different paints, whatever you have, to get something similar to this. Right, and so for the last one we're going to use liquid pearls. So this is the one that I picked out. I have them in different colors. The bonus with these is that if you have the right color that you need, you don't need to mix it together with paints. But of course, if you need it a different shade or whatever, it can always be painted over. Let's see. I like experiments. So this is definitely much thinner in consistency than all of the other ones. Well, there you go. As you can see, liquid pearls can also be used to get a raised stencil effect. So this is what it looks like. It's a very small raise, but it can definitely be used, and it has a nice sheen to it. Obviously it's pearlescent, I hope I'm saying that word right. But yeah, so very, very pretty. I actually feel like I missed out on using this. This is actually, I'm really surprised by how well it turned out. You know, would you think of using liquid pearls for stencils? I didn't until today. Well, there you go. So here are just 6 of the things that I could think of that I have lying around that you could use to get a raised stencil effect. Just a little summary. So things like multi-purpose fillers and crack fillers and stuff like that will usually give you a relatively, so if they're not watered down, they will usually give you a very kind of textured, stony feel. Texture. So if you want it a little bit smoother, you can just sand it down lightly with a little bit of sandpaper just to even it out a little bit. But again, if you're after kind of more vintagey look, then this might be something that you want to use. Of course, if it's watered down, make sure that you hold your stencil down firmly, and you can add whatever paint into it that you want if you don't want to paint over it. So here you could just leave it as is and then paint over it whatever paint that you want, and then like show it off with some waxes or dry brushing or something like that. Or if you wanted to just put it over something and have it raised, you can just tint it whatever color you need. You could also of course add metallic paint into it, or mix in a little bit of dry metallic pigment or glitter or whatever you want, and then have it all shiny. Heavy gel mediums. I know a lot of scrapbooking people, mixed media artists will already have it on hand, so you can use that and then paint over it or tint it whatever color you want again. Same with sparkle paste. And the underdog, the one that nobody expected to actually come out really nicely, liquid pearls. There you go. Hopefully you found this helpful. Hopefully maybe you learned something new about raised stencils, or maybe I gave you some ideas for what you could use that you already have lying around at home. If you don't have any of these lying around at home, then go and have a look in your DIY cupboard and see what different things that you have in there. You could try and use silicone fillers. You could use things like hard as nails as well, probably through the stencil. Just make sure that you work fast and then clean your stencil quite fast as well after you've worked, after you're done, so that it doesn't like get stuck on there forever. But yes, so I really hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe for more videos like this. If you would like to connect with me on social media, as always, there's going to be links in the description below. If you have any questions, suggestions, anything like that, then make sure and ask those in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!